Hello and welcome to Wednesday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw. As always, I'm joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Good evening.
And we are joined by Record Sport's Fraser Wilson from what he tells us is a rather chilly Ibrox Stadium.
Chilly it might be, but he's just hot-footed it out of Jose Mourinho's presser, hasn't he?
I've gone from 100 degrees to 0 in the space of 1 minute. Honest, you caught out big time here. Who said spring has sprung? They're lying.
I know. Well, as Keith says, Fraser, Jose Mourinho, that'll warm you up. What kind of form was he on today?
It's his old Jose. There was no feigning sleep as he was 7 days ago. He was very much alive and kicking and full of beans in there for the 10-15 minutes that we got to speak to him. Bullish. He's certainly no giving up in this one, that's for sure. Insisting he believes his side are definitely better than Rangers, but there's no point saying that if they don't go and prove it on the park. Blaming their own mistakes for the result last week. Very much suggesting that it was all down to Istanbul's deficiencies rather than Rangers winning the game last week that brought about that 3-1 result. So, no, look, he's not giving up in this one. They've got a big game coming up on Sunday, but no, he said if he had one eye on the game on Sunday, he wouldn't even have bothered bringing his strongest team here. He believes they can turn this game around and is fully intent in doing that.
Couple of things I noticed, Fraser. First of all, I think he took one question from the travelling Turkish press and must have taken about 4 or 5 from the domestic guys.
The travelling guys' question took about 2 minutes.
I think that's why he's obviously said to them, "Look, I can't be bothered with it." So yeah, but it seems to me as if I don't know if this is he's auditioning for a return to British football, or I don't know if he feels he can play mind games if he answers more questions in English. Well, he answers them in English anyway, but directly from the Scottish media, it looked to me as if he was a manager that was trying to get inside his opponent's head today. I really do. He gave Rangers no credit whatsoever for their performance. He actually said at one point, Fraser, that I'm not sure, he was asked about how hostile the stadium might be. And he actually gave a brilliant answer. He says, well, I'm not sure it's going to be that hostile, is it? Do you think the Rangers fans, I know British football, I can't see the Rangers fans packing out the stadium and then being happy to watch their team play the way they played last week. Low block, defensive. I just thought you're at it. You're absolutely at it.
Classic Mourinho, wasn't it? The master of the dark arts, a master of the psychological warfare. I was hoping we'd get a bit more from him, actually, but, Barry Ferguson had referenced it maybe a couple of hours earlier when he was in doing his presser, that he wants to see more of that for his side tomorrow night to be ready for Fenerbahce's dark arts. He'd like to see a wee bit more of that from his side tomorrow night. But I think we all know Mourinho was trying to get inside Rangers' heads, Rangers fans' heads, which could be dangerous tomorrow, given the way the last 3 results have gone here, because the pressure is really on Rangers tomorrow, having lost to Motherwell, St Mirren and Queen's Park in the last 3 outings here. The pressure's on them now to go and finish this job, and I think Mourinho knows that. And if he can maybe just get inside those fans' heads by saying, look, your team parked the bus last week in Istanbul and got lucky. Let's see if they can come out and attack us tomorrow. Then maybe the Rangers fans will come here expecting to see that. But I think that could play right into Fenerbahce's hands. So, don't know if you're going to ask, but I think Rangers should maybe just set up pretty safely, quite similar to what they did last week in Istanbul, and just say to Fenerbahce, come and attack us, we'll catch you on the counter.
Yeah, I agree with you, Fraser, but and this is where I'm a wee bit surprised with Mourinho. He can't surely believe in what he said there. Because if he actually thinks 50,000 Rangers fans will turn up tomorrow and not be delighted to see Rangers hitting the counter and score another couple of goals and kill the tie in exactly the same manner as they did in the first leg, if he thinks that Ibrox is going to go, what's this? he's displaying and he's the last guy in the world you would ever accuse of being naive, but I think it's a bit naive for him to think that Rangers supporters on the back of the season that they've had, on the back of the recent performances at Ibrox that they've had, if he thinks that they would be upset about watching Rangers just do a Walter Smith job on Jose Mourinho, I don't know where he's coming from with that.
scraping the barrel, maybe just trying everything, just desperate for something to click his team into action to give his team a wee bit of an advantage. I don't know either. Look, it was great value, to be fair.
Well, his box office.
And he did say, look, he was also prepared for Rangers to do that. They trained this week preparing for that, but also to prepare for Rangers to come at them tomorrow and try and kill the tie early. So it's actually got me thinking, I wonder how Barry Ferguson does go about this tomorrow. It could be quite a cagey opening, but look, the first goal is going to be absolutely vital, isn't it? So if Rangers can get their noses ahead, tie's dead, as far as I'm concerned. I think Mourinho said now, I don't know if this is true, I didn't have time to check it out, but Mourinho also said it's the first time in nearly 200 European ties as a manager that he's lost a home leg 2-0.
He'll know that.
He did have a remarkable home record, didn't he? At one point, he hadn't lost at home in 9 years or something stupid.
This is new territory for him, having to come to a second leg away from home and try and overturn a two-goal deficit. But look, told a lovely story about the last time, or what he thought was the last time he was at Ibrox, when he doesn't remember a 2007 friendly when he was here with Chelsea, where Rangers beat them 2-0, but he does remember being behind enemy lines here in the weeks before the 2003 UEFA Cup final, which obviously Celtic fans don't want to remember. But I think Celtic won that game 2-1, didn't they? That was Beach Ball Sunday, as you put it, Keith. And he was here spying. Said he didn't have to wear any fake wigs or fake moustaches or nothing, because he claims nobody knew him back then and he could wander about freely. Bliss.
He's telling little fibbies. He's telling little fibs. And I tell you why I can tell you that with absolute certainty is that we spotted him from the press box. Mm-hmm. Now, where you're sitting just now, Fraser, is where the press box is these days. Back then, pretty sure if memory serves, that was still in the days when it was actually behind the director's box, the press box. But we clocked him because we obviously, it wasn't as if nobody been paying any attention to the fact that Celtic were about to play Porto. So we clocked him just a few rows away from us. And on the final whistle, a few of us went down and, he was more than happy. He knew that we knew who he was, and he was more than happy to conduct a sort of impromptu interview from the main stand. So see all this stuff about, I just came in and nobody realised who I was and I walked out with the fans at the end. It's not strictly true. It's a nice version of events.
Right. Keith, I would love to be allowed to turn the camera around, because he's just wandered out. They're training right now, but
tell him this is a liar.
He's just looked up. He's just looked up. No, it says you're the liar. I really wish I could turn the camera around and show you, but we're no rights holders, so I'm not allowed.
Yeah, you'll get a UEFA ban.
Aye, probably not worth that. But they're just going through their paces ahead of tomorrow's game, getting a feel for Ibrox. It's calm before the storm, I think you could say.
I should say for everyone watching, we will have a bit of Barry Ferguson's press conference a little bit later on. But just before that, see, going back to Jose's supposed mind games, guys, or Keith, that's not going to get to Barry Ferguson or any of the Rangers players, is it? Surely they're above that.
I think Barry Ferguson will be quite quietly delighted that before the second leg, Mourinho is trying to play these games, because I think if you'd gone into that first leg, and by the way, I'm not sure that's just as warm and friendly as an embrace as it might have seemed to be. I have reason to believe that words were exchanged there, which just helped put a little bit of needle into the first leg. Mm-hmm. And I think that, put it this way, if you're Barry Ferguson, you're almost a complete novice. This is your first ever European tie as a manager, and you've come up against Mourinho in the first leg away from home and been the first guy ever to get a 2-goal victory over him. No. So he's in a good place. I think you'll quite like the fact that Mourinho looks to be a little bit needly ahead of this second leg. But do you know what? He'll take nothing for granted, because it's bad enough coming up against Mourinho on any day. But Mourinho with a thorn on his side could be a very dangerous guy. So yeah, but I think Barry Ferguson will be quietly delighted that he's got one up. 2 up, but he's got 1 up in Mourinho, but he'll also be really conscious of the fact that as much as Ibrox will be intoxicating in terms of the atmosphere tomorrow night. If it starts to go wrong, if it starts to get out of hand, it will become more toxic than intoxicating. It could become a very stressful environment. And I think that from everything that we've seen from Barry Ferguson, from the way he's handled himself since taking on this position on an interim basis, he's spoken really well. He's made a lot of sense, and I think he's connected with the players. So, Rangers certainly won't go into this thinking the job's anywhere near remotely done. They know they've got a lot of hard yards to put in tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm. And Fraser, I know we have to let you go again in just a few minutes, but before I do, how do you think it'll play out? What's your gut feeling? How will it go tomorrow night?
I do think the first goal is absolutely crucial, because we've seen it the last 3 games here now, when the crowd can turn so quickly on Rangers, and because they did so well last week, they're now in a position that if they don't qualify, I think is a bit of a disaster. They're in such a strong position. So if they were to lose an early goal to Fenerbahce and get the feeling that Fenerbahce are on top of them, a horrible feeling, the roof could cave in. So I think it's vital Rangers get that first goal, and if they do, I think they'll be fine. I'm predicting a 1-1 when I was putting a spot earlier. I'm predicting a 1-1, which I think everybody here would take tomorrow. Rangers have looked a different beast, obviously, in Europe. The fact that Fenerbahce have to go for them will play into Rangers' hands in the break, as we saw in Turkey last week. There's no doubt Rangers are better running into big spaces than they are a defensive block. So I do think Barry Ferguson should probably go with a similar setup to last week. Obviously, bring in the likes of Leon Balogun for Robin Proper. And basically not really change too much else. Leave it. Let Istanbul answer the questions. And yeah, 1-1 I think would be my prediction, and a real massive result to give Rangers a kind of much needed hope for the last few weeks of this season.
I think you're right, Fraser. I think tactical will be very similar. I think there might be tweaks in personnel. I wonder, for example, if he's looking at Dujon Sterling, either to play as the right side centre half of the 3, or even at right back, because he was very effective up against San Maximin when he came off the bench. San Maximin was starting to give Rangers problems down that left-hand side.
Mm-hmm. He's not travelled. He's not travelled.
Yeah, well, I know, but that's another good bit of news for Rangers. But just in terms of Sterling's physicality, he's injured. I know he's had injury problems, but I thought he looked really good when he came off the bench. Yeah. And I wonder if that might be a tweak that Barry Ferguson's thinking about. Obviously, if Proper and Balogun were both fit, I think Balogun would start anyway. So I think there's another change. I don't expect too much after that. I think that, and then I think you're right, Fraser. I think they would be set up to just rope-a-dope stuff. You come on to us, and then he knows. And the Fenerbahce defence looked sluggish. They looked frail. And I think that Barry Ferguson would think he's got the players in that kind of final, mid to final third of the pitch that can cause the same kind of problems. Yeah. I actually think you said, Fraser, it might not be a fast start from Rangers. I think you'll find, and you've seen it in these European nights, from the first kick-off, for the first couple of minutes, I think Rangers will go hell for leather. Because you've seen it, and if they can get that early goal, the roof comes off the place and the tie's dead, more or less. But if they don't get the breakthrough in the first 3, 4, 5 minutes, you should see them then settling back into the shape, and then just, the pace will take its own, or the game will take on its own pace. It usually does, but there is that sort of frantic opening 5 minutes. And Rangers have actually, you almost lost count the amount of times on the run to the final a couple of years ago that they got an early goal in that frantic opening period, and it kind of set the tone for the night.
Yeah, it certainly helped. I think one thing's for sure, and Connor Barnes said it when I was speaking to him earlier as well, that they need to be even better than last week. Last week was pretty close to perfection. They need to be even better to guarantee progress tomorrow. See the 3 goals Rangers scored last week. The first one nipping at the heels in the final third. Diamande, absolutely outstanding. Second one, Raskin winning the ball in the middle of the park and then hitting in the quick in the break. Brilliant again. But Raskin's pass, winning it deep for the third goal, and his pass for the third goal was outstanding. And at that point, I watched it back today. Fenerbahce had 5 players in the Rangers box at that point, where Raskin won it, and his ball through to Czerny was absolute sublime. Aye. So these are the wee things that need to be absolutely perfect again tomorrow night. And if they can get that level of performance, the intensity, the energy, and on the ball, the quality, then I think they will go through.
Fraser, it's always a pleasure having you in the Hotline Live. We'll let you go and get a wee heat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us as ever.
Cheers, lads. Good luck.
Up the road, Fraz. Up the road, son.
Cheers, Fraser.
When you told that.
Fraser Wilson there, live from Ibrox Stadium. Keith, we mentioned Rangers manager Barry Ferguson also had his press conference today. Shall we hear a little bit from him?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Here's what he had to say.
Barry, after such a good result in the first leg, how do you approach this one? Is it a case of stick or twist? How do you find that balance in what you do?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but listen, it was a really good performance. I still think there's areas where we can improve, and that's what we've tried to do over the last 3 days. We're under no illusions that it's going to be a different game. Fenerbahce will be hurting, I know that, my players know that, they're well aware of that as well, so we've spoken about that over the last couple of days, so we've prepared in the right manner. There might be 1 or 2 tweaks, we'll just need to wait and see. But look, it's been a good 3 days. That's the first time I've really had the players to go and work on certain things that I think they can improve on, and they've worked ever so hard, so that's all I can ask as a manager.
Recently at home, it's not been great in terms of results. How do you make sure you change that and you come in with a mindset to use this as a fortress?
Well, they've got to have a different mindset. That's been a big issue. They know that. I'm not going to sit here, and I think you all know that as well. It has been an issue at times throughout the season, and that's something that I'm tasked with trying to change, and I'm working ever so hard to do it, and so the boys as well. So they're taking everything that we're giving them on board, and what I've seen in the last 3 days, it's certainly going. It's going well.
You obviously played at a time when Ibrox was such an energising force for your team in the way to 2008. You saw it again to 2022. I know results the last 3 games at home haven't been great, but do you believe that this is still a place that can raise this team to new levels rather than drag it down?
Yeah. Listen, see if you get this place rocking, it's a proper place to play football, and that's I've told the guys that, and they know that. They know how good they've played in some of the guys that are in the squad have played in European nights here. And when you go out with a certain attitude to play the game, there's no better place to play football. So we'll go on and we'll brace the challenge tomorrow night, because, as I said, it's going to be a different game in my opinion. But we need to stand tall, and we need to go head to head with Fenerbahce, because they'll come and they'll go for us. So we need to be strong in the mind. But I certainly believe, that my group of players over the last 3 days certainly know what's going to come at them. So we're prepared for it. An ideal world, everybody would be fit and available and 100%, but that's never the case. That's why you carry a squad. That's why it's important that the guys that have not been involved, certainly last Thursday, that they need to make sure they take information on. But as I said, I just need to wait until tomorrow, and hopefully I get good news rather than bad news.
Barry, you say you're prepared for all different scenarios. You expect the game to differ from last Thursday. What do you expect Fenerbahce to do differently? Do you think they might come out more? Obviously, they're 2 goals down. Do you expect them to try and play on the front foot, and then could that benefit you if they leave space in behind?
Yeah, but listen, I expect them to come for us, because they're 3-1 down. There's no doubt about that, so we're prepared for that. And they've got guys, as I said, that can hurt you for the wide areas. They like to get balls into the box. So my back 2 or my back 3 or back 5, whatever it's going to be, need to be prepared for that and ready for that. So look, we've covered all sorts of scenarios, as you have to do when you're playing against very good teams.
I thought it was quite funny, Keith. My back 2 or my back 5, depends what it's going to be.
Oh, my back 3. Aye.
My back 3. Look, let me hit you with a few comments, because we've got tons of comments coming in, which we really appreciate. If you want to get involved in the conversation, as always, hit us up in the comments section below. Scotland the Brave says, the reality is if Fenerbahce score early, panic will settle in, then it's suddenly a draw. John says Fenerbahce have to score first tomorrow, otherwise it'll be good night Vienna. Our pal Gianni says 1 goal should be enough, you'd imagine, and he's also asking for a prediction from me, but I'll save that for the end. Let me find this one if I can. Ian says, do a Josie and park the bus. Go out there with a 0-0 attitude and put a couple past them again. The Ibrox crowd will be behind them all the way. And just finally, Keith, Sean says, Dessers needs to play tomorrow and Barry needs to stick with the back five as well. What do you think of that?
I think that you overemphasised the second needs. There was capital letters in the first one, and then you made it just as pronounced.
Apologise for that, Sean. I did.
Just normal needs. What do I think? I think that, well, as I said, I think there might be tweaks to personnel in the back five. It wouldn't surprise me if Sterling, if he's declared, fit enough, because that has been his issue. If he's fit and raring to go, I think that he would accommodate him. As I said to you, it'd be interesting if he played him in the right wing back position. Probably not. You'd probably put Tavernier out there, thinking that you might give you that little bit more quality in the, going forward from an advanced position out in the right hand side. Sterling's an option, and I think Balogun all day long, so long as he's given the green light by the medics, I would imagine that he'll start. I noticed that he trained today. So, it's interesting. There was something else there that Barry Ferguson said, and obviously his press conference was a bit early in the day, and he said that, I know that, Jose Mourinho will be hurting a little bit. Then that was put to Jose Mourinho about half an hour or so ago. I'm not hurting. Me hurting? It's just, don't be silly. So he's got a very arrogant swagger that he's brought with him to Glasgow for this game. I think, and if you're Jose Mourinho and you're looking at Barry Ferguson in the opposite dugout, you're going to think, I can get inside this guy's head. I can intimidate him. This guy has been in this position 2 minutes. I've done everything. I've won everything there is to win. There's no way that I can't intimidate this guy. Mm-hmm. So let's see. because for everything we know about Barry Ferguson, he's not easily intimidated, is he?
Aye. Johnny in the comment section says it'll be so much fun watching Josie throw a tantrum at Ibrox tomorrow night, 3-1 to Rangers. Regardless of the score, it will be fun seeing that if it does happen. Josie going a bit mad in the touchline.
Listen, he's going to bring his full box of tricks, isn't he?
Aye.
Because if his players play as badly as they did in the first leg, Jose Mourinho's not the sort of guy that's just going to roll over and go quietly. There's going to be fireworks. And if that means accusing referees, or if that means, throwing a tantrum, or Jose's a showman. And if his team's not putting on the show, he'll put the show on. The mind boggles as to where this might go. But I think, one or two of the comments there are right. If Fenerbahce can get the first goal at Ibrox, all of a sudden you're walking into a very different tie in a very different world.
Changes everything.
And these Rangers supporters have endured some agonies in their own stadium this season. And you might start to get a bit of scar tissue there as well. Mm-hmm. That could have a very negative impact on the atmosphere. Certainly a second Fenerbahce goal would 100% do that. It's just, I'm so interested, I'm so intrigued by everything about this tie, including the relationship and the state of the relationship between the home support and their team right now. Because it's been fractured, we've seen it's hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Are they falling in love again because of last week? Because Barry Ferguson and his little collection of Rangers guys are in the dugout, and has that made the reconnection? Well, I actually think it has done with a kind of large number of the Rangers supporters. But that's guesswork. We actually not going to know what it looks and feels and sounds like until close to kick-off time tomorrow night, and then we'll get an idea. Are Rangers facing an uphill struggle just to keep their own fans on side, or are the Rangers fans totally reconnected with their team in the way that they were previously on that run when they helped them over the line? I don't know how many times on the run to the final in Seville. So fascinating. Add into the mix Jose Mourinho being Jose Mourinho. Add into the mix the fact that there's a bit of a feeling, I think, and not without reason, that the Turkish league is somewhere that guys that have been really good footballers sort of go to die. They go there knowing, well, I can get a big payday there. And it looked to me, that Fenerbahce side looked to me like a collection of guys that when it actually started to get pretty tough for them, I'm not sure how committed they looked to the thing. When you look at what Dzeko looked like, albeit 5-6 years ago.
Dzeko, Tadic as well.
Tadic. So, but that's not to say that these guys, they're like great prize fighters. Their legs might not be what they used to be, but they can pack a punch.
And in fairness to Dzeko, he has got 20 goals this season. So I mean,
well, exactly. So let's see. There's so many things that you can have a picture in your mind's eye how it might look, but it's not until kick-off time tomorrow that you're really going to have a real feel for what it is that Rangers are. Is this, Jose Mourinho said that they've played 19 games, and in 18 of the 19 games, they've been exactly the team that he wants them to be and, would expect them to be. He said it's only happened in one game that it didn't work. He said, look, I didn't make any excuses about the fact that Fred wasn't playing in the middle of my midfield, and he's my most important player, fundamental to the team, Fred. So he's thrown that one in. So that's just thrown in the seed of doubt. Oh, well, Fred, is he going to make the difference to me? Well, maybe he will. I wouldn't have thought so, because if it's the same Fred that was at Manchester United, if he's a match winner.
He was wrong.
Well, these are famous last words as well, by the way. Put the money on, put the kettle on for a Fred hat-trick. But so there's all these various elements. Really difficult to call this one. Really difficult to call. But again, I come back to it. If Rangers can get a goal, and how many times did we see them do that in previous European runs, in the early exchanges, the first 5 minutes, they come out the traps, racing out the traps before anybody's got time to settle, and the game's got it finds its own pace. There's that 5 minute period that if the noise is up, if the intensity's up, if the Fenerbahce players are just taking a couple of minutes just to settle in, they can be vulnerable, and Rangers have exploited that. Mm-hmm. So I would expect to see Rangers try and throw the kitchen sink at it in that opening period before the game then settles down into a more natural pace, and then we'll find its equilibrium, and you'll have an idea of what the 90 minutes is going to look like. But if Rangers could make that breakthrough, could you imagine?
Oh, God.
If there is any doubts about what the atmosphere is going to feel like tomorrow night, well, an early goal for Rangers would soon sort that out, you would think. Honestly, I'm so looking forward to it for so many reasons. There's, it's one of these games. Any Scottish club competing at this stage in a European competition, you're totally engrossed in it. But there's so many different ingredients to this particular one with Ferguson versus Mourinho, and you don't know. Was Mourinho telling us the truth? Is the Fenerbahce side 100 times better than we saw last Thursday, as he's telling us it is? Because if it is, well, there's another ingredient to throw into it, because Rangers won't know what they're about to walk out against if that is truly the case.
Aye. Well, look, we heard from Fraser Wilson earlier on after the Jose Mourinho press conference. I understand, Keith, you caught up with Record Sports' Andy Newport.
I did while you were watching racing.
I was in Cheltenham duty. I hope everyone watching
that's what you call it.
Has kept their money in their pockets because all the favourites fell today. But anyway, you caught up with Andy Newport earlier on after Barry Ferguson's press conference. Shall we hear what he's had to say?
Yes.
Absolutely.
What's the headlines? What are the takeaways from it?
Basically, he's called for one of those famous Ibrox nights. He's asked the fans and his team to light a fire under this place, was the phrase he used. He wants to get Ibrox rocking. Obviously, he knows plenty about that. He was the man who skippered this team to the UEFA Cup final in 2008. So he knows the uplifting power, electrifying power that this place can have. So he's looking for a repeat. Listen, he's well aware that the job's half done. They had a terrific first leg performance at Istanbul last week to get that 3-1 win, but they've still got a big 90 minutes ahead of them. He's expecting Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce to come out and to have a go at them, but he knows that could present some opportunities to his team, but they have to take them, and they have to be obviously solid at the back.
He's come across very confidently, I think, in these pressers, the way he's handled it since getting catapulted into that position. Andy, how was he today? Still the same sort of a Barry Ferguson that we kind of expect, or is there a wee sign of nerves or How was his character?
I think he's handled the whole public facing side of this job terrifically since he came in. I know that there was a lot of sceptics out there about Barry Ferguson coming in, given previous managerial records, but I think he's been terrific so far. Again, even today, just refusing to sugarcoat certain things. Obviously, talking about that Motherwell result, talking about recent home record here. Obviously, they've had 3 defeats in the spin. If they lose on Thursday night, it'll be the first time that this club has ever lost 4 games at home in a row. So, but he knows, and he made clear that the standards that are required have to be at the very highest. He didn't try to make excuses in the way that you've got to say Philippe Clement did at times for that. He didn't try to make excuses for that Motherwell performance. Just said it wasn't good enough. The players know that. It's now down to them. They have to respond. They have to show. Listen, they've got it all going for them after that incredible performance last week in Istanbul. But we've seen that this Rangers team, it can be flaky, it can be erratic. Europe's obviously is a level where it seems to madly feel most comfortable. The domestic games where they've had most of their troubles, but it would be interesting to see how this team would react if they were to lose an early goal. I mean, I think that would be the concern for everyone here. With the battering they've had at times, what would that do for their psyche?
Is their mentality going to stand up to it?
Yeah, exactly. So, but listen, I think he's bullish. I think he knows that this team is capable of getting a result, capable of getting into the last 8 of the Europa League, and once you get to those kind of stages, then who knows what can happen. Can you start dreaming of going all the way to the finals they did a couple of years ago? It then becomes very, very close, doesn't it? It doesn't seem so far away.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be allowing that to set into his mindset, though. I mean, getting pitched in as a relative novice, first ever European tie as a manager, and you're up against Jose Mourinho in Istanbul. He came through that with absolute flying colours. But I think in his mindset, he'll be really wary. He'll know that Mourinho isn't going to just fold over here. There'll be something up his sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, he used the phrase, he knows that they'll be coming for them, and they will be. They need to get 2 goals, so they're going to have to come here with an attacking intent. But as we saw over there in the first leg when Fenerbahce opened up, Rangers just were able to cut through them and exploit that. Were it not for a couple of I'll not use the phrase that we use in Scotland, but a couple of hair's breadth offside calls, it could have been a 5-1 victory, and they could be home and hose. So, and you couldn't have argued with that. They were absolutely terrific in the night, where Fenerbahce looked for spells very ordinary. So, if Fenerbahce are better than they were, and you probably expect them to be, then it could be a tight game. But at the end of the day, they've got to come, they've got to attack, and if Rangers can exploit those spaces like they did last week, they've got an incredible chance of getting through. They're obviously the favourites to progress, but I think as Barry Ferguson has been at pains to point out since the final whistle went last week, the job isn't done yet, not by a long shot.
Yeah, someone that struggled really badly with Cheltenham over the last couple of days. It's not one that would interest me parting money on. I tell you that for nothing. I think there is some good news from Rangers, which we should get confirmed. Jose Mourinho a little bit later on, but it appears that Alan St-Maximin hasn't made the flight for Fenerbahce, and he was the guy that really stood out in the second half over there in terms of attacking threat. Yeah,
come on. He's obviously, we all know his pace, his power from his days with Newcastle in the Premier League. But to us, I thought he was a bit erratic at times. I thought some of his decision makings at times was a bit suspect.
Was ever thus?
No, I mean, I don't think, I think there was at times you could see Jose Mourinho in the touchline pulling his hair out, because he had the beating of Ridvan Yilmaz, but in terms of what he did with it, I remember one shot that goodness, nearly hit double Rose Ed, and there was a cross that he sent overcooked over the box. So, is he going to be the danger man? I'm not so sure. I mean, I think the two they had up front last week caused problems in the early stages, especially in Dzeko, his experience. But he's 37-year-old.
I think they look old, Andy.
I mean, even Tadic, who's a terrific player these days with Southampton, with Ajax, didn't really just have that grip in the game. But listen, Rangers have got to be expecting these guys are going to be better, and they need to have the performance levels to match. So it's all set up to be a great night. But Rangers have obviously, they've got the edge that they need, and they just have to see it through.
Now, Ferguson caught Mourinho by surprise with the way he set up for the first leg. are we expecting something very similar, just with a couple of maybe tweaks to personnel?
Well, I think he said just also in the press conference that there might be a couple of tweaks they're working on. We also asked about Robin Proper with the concussion that he got after that. He suffered after that really ugly sort of collision with Jack Butland. He wasn't giving too much away. He said he trained today but needs to make a decision. Says he's got a couple other sort of doubts that he's sweating over. When we asked about that, he just sort of grinned at us and said, "Do you think I'm going to give the game away?" So maybe he's learning after all. Maybe he's taking a few things off of Jose Mourinho, who's obviously the master of all these kind of mind games and things like that. But it was interesting. Just even you're exclusive in the paper this morning, Keith, with Brian Laudrup backing him for the job if he can get a result tomorrow night. If he can get a result at Celtic on Sunday and somehow
even a performance.
See off Brendan Rodgers, then that clamour's going to start growing for perhaps Barry to get the job on a permanent basis. But I asked the question of him right at the end of the presser, and he absolutely shot it down. Not interested in that kind of talk. His only focus is tomorrow night's game. He is 100% concentrating on making sure that Rangers get through to the quarter-finals, and I think that's got to be admired. Well, maybe not, but I like the fact that
saying all the right things, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is that. I mean, you how many times have you seen sort of guys thrust into these positions and knowing that this might be their only chance to get a job like this? This might be Barry Ferguson's one and only opportunity to become manager of Rangers permanently. Why doesn't he stick his name in? Why doesn't he make a public declaration and just try and get a wee bit of chat going? No, he's not interested in that. He just wants to get the team through, do his bit for the next 3 months. Where that takes him, we'll have to wait and see. But I like the fact that he's been sensible about this sort of thing, and he's not allowing himself to get carried away.
All right, well, we had to do predictions for tomorrow's paper, Andy. I know what I've done. What have you gone with?
Well, I get slaughtered last week for predicting a 3-1 win that was a 2-1 Fenerbahce win that would obviously leave Rangers still within a shout. So I'm going to, basically give the critics what they're looking for and go a Rangers 2-1 victory. I think Fenerbahce will come out, they'll look to score, but I think that'll leave plenty of spaces for Rangers to get behind them and get the goals that will see them through.
I think you're right, and I think what you've identified there, Andy, is that they will have to come forward, and their back line doesn't look, or certainly from the first leg's evidence, it doesn't look reliable. I think Rangers on the counter can hurt them. I think if Fenerbahce score first, it could become a sweaty night for Rangers. Yeah. But I'm going to go 2-2. First goal's most important, Andy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, as I said earlier, this is a Rangers team that's been vulnerable at times, especially here. The fact that they've got a cushion, a 2-goal cushion, should give them a wee bit of confidence coming in here. But if they lose that first goal and if Fenerbahce get a bit ahead of steam about them, I just worry about what sort of mood that could be around about here. But listen, I think the fact that Fenerbahce are going to have to come, and we just saw how wide open they were. I mean, they were as poor as any. It was the most un-Jose Mourinho-like performance you've ever seen, just how wide open they were. It's like no Jose Mourinho team I've ever seen before. So, listen, you can put it down as a bad day at the office, but if that is really what they're like, if they are that vulnerable to the counter-attacks, then I think Rangers could certainly have some joy and get the goals that's going to get them through. So, 2-1.
Andy, thanks very much, mate.
Couple of comments, Keith, before we wrap up. Tex
Right.
Thompson says, we lose too many aerial duels in our own box. Mourinho will try to exploit it with Zeko and Nesri. Craigie says, Mourinho will get another surprise with a 2-0 Gers win. Of course, I mentioned earlier, Gianni was asking me for a prediction. 1-1. There you go. Rangers progress. You can take that to the bank.
Have you got any of them right, Daniel?
Listen.
I know this has become a regular theme, but have you had one right yet?
There was one, wasn't there?
Was there?
Remember there was one, the guy said he'd give money to charity. I can't remember what game it was now. But aye, there was definitely one.
I'm not sure about that. That's a steward's inquiry.
I'll go through the archives. Rebel
Cheltenham
says,
steward's inquiry required.
Rebel says 2-1 for Rangers. Before I come to your prediction, Keith, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Well, you've not been listening then, because I said it during the.
Oh, did you say it there?
Yeah,
I thought you
I
said
did.
you were saving it for the paper. Sorry,
No.
I'm here in mission control. I'm dealing with the comments and that,
All over the shop here.
But will they start with the back five? Will it be just a repeat from last week? Rangers tactically, I mean.
Who knows? and this is what I'm saying about this tie in general. There's so many things that you just are going to be so fascinating, so compelling. What do I think? Yeah,
What's your gut feeling? Do you think Barry will stick to it?
I think so. I think that the structure worked. I think that it did the damage that he was hoping it would do. I think that it gave Rangers bodies in areas of the park where they needed them, and energy in the middle of the park. And I think that's key. I think there were times in that game where Fenerbahce were going with almost 4, 5 players strung out across the kind of Rangers back five, and it just left acres in the middle of the pitch. And with the energy that they had with Conor Barron, Diamonde, and Raskin, I felt that gave Rangers. I mean, look at the perfect example was Desser's cushion layoff. Raskin runs on it. There's not a Fenerbahce player, competing for the ball, and it gives him time to look up, get his head up, spot the pass. Now he had to execute it for Czerny's goal. But yeah, I just thought it worked perfectly. Why change it? He may come up with another idea, because I happen to know that I think the backroom staff were taken by surprise. His own backroom staff were taken by surprise when Barry Ferguson told them behind the scenes this was in his sort of mind for the first leg. So he might come up with another curveball, who knows?
Aye.
But for me, I think he would have been very pleased, delighted with the way that it came off for him in the first leg. And I think what's key, as he's mentioned in his press conference today, about a need to be flexible. And he said that this is one of the problems that the Rangers team had under Philippe Clement, was that they played a certain way and they couldn't change. And I think that it wouldn't surprise me to see Rangers starting with the same sort of strategy and tactics as they had in Istanbul. But he'll put out 11 players who would then be capable of shifting into a different formation and a different strategy if that's what's required during the 90 minutes. And I think that's good, because I think that keeps people on their toes. Rangers were so predictable under the previous manager that you knew what you were getting. Aye. And it was, how do you combat it? And when it didn't work for Rangers, when they weren't getting success, they looked to the sidelines and they just changed personnel. Throw on one guy for another guy, similar position. Nothing ever changed. And so at least I think what Barry Ferguson will do in this one is he might go in similar to the first leg, but he'll keep his options open as he goes. And he'll arm himself with different variations of what he can do in the game. And surely that's what management's meant to be all about.
Aye, definitely. John there says, big game for Butland tomorrow night. He was great in the first leg, and I think they will need him. And Rebel says they will play like Celtic game at Ibrox, in my opinion. I do think if Rangers come out the gates the way they did against Celtic, what was it, at the end of December? I think they could be a couple of goals up before Fenerbahce even know what hits them. But
again, see, this is what I'm talking about, because that's right, they did. But it was similar. They let Celtic bring the game to them, and they hit them on the break. And they hit them fast and early. And, I think that's what I could imagine. They'll hope for something similar tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But they won't worry too much about giving up possession. And I think, the way that Fenerbahce resorted to just throwing bodies up front and forward areas, and there wasn't a lot of legs there. Obviously, I thought Saint-Maximin made a difference when he came on. He's not there now. He's a powerful guy, but he's not going to be there for the second leg. I just feel it gives Rangers a chance to dominate in the central areas, and they've got the players then, if they can get their passes right in these positions, they should have the chance to get a run on Fenerbahce. And they had that over and over again in the first leg. They're really only going to need it 2 or 3 times, so long as the execution in that final third, when these chances do come to open them up and to get a shot on goal, that they make the right decisions, because that's the key factor. And you saw for Czerny's first goal in Istanbul, Dessers plays the pass of his life.
Aye, but amazing pass, aye.
Passes, what does he mean it? I don't know, but it's the passes life. So that's what I'm talking about in these final areas. When you do break on them, when you do get numbers, when you have got in behind their defence, they're on turn, you've got to make the right decision. And we've seen over and over again with Dessers, not to single him out, but he's capable of making the wrong decision just as easy as he's capable of making the right one.
You don't know what you're going to get, do you? No idea.
Well, this is exactly it, and I think that slogan there is perfectly sets the whole second leg up. You simply do not know what you're going to get. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating.
Aye, it's going to be intriguing to say the least. And we'll be back to pour over it all tomorrow night, later than usual at 10 p.m. It's another pyjamas job.
10 p.m, assuming the tie is settled in 90 minutes, Daniel. Otherwise, it's going to be a midnight candle job for us.
That's a very good point. I hadn't even considered extra time. Although, I think it'll be done before then. There you go. Take that to the bank.
It's the world's worst tipster.
I've cursed it now. No, we will be back tomorrow night to talk over what...
Come hell or high water, no matter what time.
You'll get your hotline live. Don't worry about that. We never let our viewers down. It's going to be a cracker. We hope you can join us then. Thank you so much for all the comments tonight again. We really appreciate it. And Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks for watching.
See you tomorrow. Jammies on.